Hello there, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Today's Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. I'm Trey Crowder, and that's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
Nothing, Trey. I was at Walgreens last night picking up a prescription, and I saw a line of people about 40 deep waiting to get vaccinated, and that
Yeah,
was the most beautiful thing I've seen in a long time, man. It's like it's actually happening. This shit's ending finally.
right. I saw a headline that said, and admittedly, this is, like confirmed cases, but I saw a headline that said more people have been vaccinated for COVID in America than have gotten the virus the whole time, which I found to be a uplifting headline. Again, I know that there's so many people who got it and will never know because they were
Yeah,
asymptomatic or whatever. But I mean, still, that's good to read. It's good to hear.
yeah, that's fully vaccinated too. So it's like we passed like 30 million fully vaccinated, and like we've had like 29 million documented cases or whatever. But yeah, you're right. Like three or four times as many people that should have some herd immunity because they got it and didn't know they had it. So.
Yeah, man, it's nice to see some light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully, like
Yeah, man, I'm ready to get back to licking toilet seats. You know what I'm saying?
right. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I know, you've made fun of me before, and rightfully so, for being, so I would never self identify as superstitious, but I know that I evidently am because, like, I have like a certain level of anxiety inside of me right now talking about this because I'm like, I don't want to jinx anything, you know? Like us talking about being good, that will somehow confirm or ensure that the universe makes it not good, you know?
Well,
But yeah,
the
go ahead.
the way people have been covering this, we're so habituated to being screwed by this now that people are like beating dogs. Where they're just
Yeah.
like every time a new variant pops up, people freak out like the pandemic's going to go on another 3 years. But all the vaccines seems to work for the variants. I saw some article yesterday saying the scientists are like COVID's got no more moves left. There's only so many spike proteins it can do because of the nature of the virus, and it's basically run out of them. So it's not much more it can evolve. And knock on wood, it's just like it's about done, man. We fucking kicked its ass. Hell yeah, humanity, we win this one.
Yeah. See, I love that, but you were like making me nervous in the middle of that. You're talking about how he's got no moves. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, shh, shh, don't talk during the no hitter type of thing. Not that this is a
Trey,
no
we're
hitter.
up 3 touchdowns on COVID. We can go
Yeah,
prevent
right. It's gonna
defense,
be
baby.
fine. Yeah, we're up 28-3 on COVID right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
halftime. No one's ever done it. No one's ever come back from down 3-1 in a
no
7 game
virus
series.
has ever done it.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so let's get into the show. With us, as always, producer Matt doing his thing. This is Weekly Skews tonight. We talk about the big COVID relief bill, what the Democrats got right, what they got wrong, and what the Republicans were doing in the interim. Spoiler alert, it's whimsically infuriating. We also talk about the appropriate role of the filibuster in the future of American politics and as much British royalty discussion as either of us can stomach. We'll see how that goes. All that and more on tonight's Skews, but first, as always, the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. So tonight's DD, let me put it to you this way: better hot takes, better dumbasses, weekly skews. That's right. It's Papa John, who you may recall was canceled, fired by his own board of directors a few years ago for using that most vile of racial slurs, the N word, in a public forum. But not to worry, the impresario of mediocre pizza pies has spent the intervening months working diligently on self improvement. Matt, you play the clip.
Take me back to a few years ago when you start to see these headlines coming out and smearing your good name. How did you feel at the time when you were seeing these headlines?
State of shock. Um, Unbelievable. I couldn't understand it. I mean, again, you have a public board that paints its chairman complicit, passive, or active. They paint the founder as a racist. They know he's not a racist. It's just unbelievable. And I used to lay in bed just going, how did they do this? And we've had three goals for the last 20 months to get rid of this N-word in my vocabulary and dictionary and everything else because it's just not true.
All right,
Figure
you
out how
cut
they
it off,
did
man.
this
Yeah.
and get on
That's
with my
all- that's all
life.
we need to
If
hear.
Papa John's,
Yeah.
He's been working for. He's been working hard for 20 months to remove the N word from his vocabulary, and it seems to me like he's feeling good about his progress. Mark, he's coming along with getting rid of the N word from his vocabulary.
I can't even figure out what point he's trying to make unless he's coming out as having Tourette's, because I don't even know like if you can control it, but you're still like I'm still saying the N word, but I'm down to 3 times a day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He's cut back. He's cut back on the N word, which he feels should be applauded. Like he's got a patch for it. He's got an N word patch. He's going to N word sayers anonymous meetings. Like he said. It also, he's like, we've been working for 20 months. Like I imagine he's got this like whole special team he's put together to help him with this. You know what I mean? And they drill him every day on not saying the N word. They come in and they're like, all right, John, what do you call a black pilot? And he's like, and they're, no, it's just a pilot, John. He's like, oh, right. That's right. I'm sorry.
You think it's like
I'm still evolving, I'm still getting there.
See, in my head, it's like he wears a shocking collar around his house that has an AI in it that hears him when he says it. I mean, first of all, it's weird for the founder of Papa John's to claim he is a racist, considering his pizza has been racist against Italians since the day of it. Italians would object to that framing. I mean, I love Papa John's. I lived on it in college, but also I like Tostino's pizza rolls. So I'm not like a hardcore connoisseur, but I can't imagine.
And I'm not just saying this because of the political context or whatever. I also lived off Papa John's in college, but I felt like, and I still, Mark, tell me if this is even a real word. It was a word in my culture. I got foundered on Papa John's. Have you ever heard that? You heard that word? Yeah, that's a thing where they say you get foundered on it, which basically means like you have too much of it, and then you like ruin it for yourself. Like you indulge.
That happened to
heavily.
me with tequila.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. You got foundered. You got foundered on tequila. Producer Matt says it's a horse term. So there you go. That's interesting. No more detail than that, but yeah, I ate it's when horses eat too much. So there you go. But I ate so much Papa John's in college that like I genuinely I can't do it anymore. I haven't liked it for a long time. I just wore myself out on it.
By the way, I looked up the circumstances of his firing, because his firing was a 2-step process. So he got fired. He stepped down as CEO in January of 2018 because he was in a beef with the NFL over the anthem protest. The NFL dropped his the Papa John's official pizza of the NFL contract, so that's why the board removed him from CEO. And then he got fired from the board because when he was complaining about the getting fired for the anthem protest thing, he said the exact words were, "I can't believe I got in trouble for this. Colonel Sanders called blacks bloop." That's what he said. He was defending himself.
Like, just even like N-word aside, which is not a thing you should ever say, but like him like framing it as him versus Colonel Sanders is also hilarious to me. Like him being like, look what Colonel Sanders did. Like,
yeah.
That.
How come I'm in trouble? I'm not as racist as a fake Confederate general. Colonel.
Yeah.
God, that's wild.
Oh man. Okay. All right. So let's get some honorable mentions for the Daily Dumbass tonight. Our first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass: trees in the North Carolina region. Any tree there who thought that in the presence of rookie Congressman Madison Hawthorne, they could talk shit and not get hit. Matt, play the. Oh, slow mo.
What I love about this.
Oh. Whip that tree's
he's showing
ass,
off
boy. Look at him.
Yeah. So, but like that tree's so rotten, when he punched one part, another part fell off.
What even is that supposed to be? Is it because, okay, Mark, is it just like liberals are wimps and we're not. Is it like a tree hugger joke or something? Like, we're tree huggers, they're tree ass whoopers or whatever. Is it literally just trying to be as badass as you can be? Or
Now,
what is
I think it's one of those
happening
times
here?
where you're looking for meaning behind something when it just owns to punch
When
a tree.
he just wanted to punch a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He bought
he's just mad at
producer
trees.
producer Matt found the gloves he was wearing. They were tactical gloves with like hard knuckles. So he bought special. Matt says he's mad at his dad. I'm assuming this context is his dad's a tree. His dad and this tree both leave. That pun didn't even work.
Yeah, here you go. Apparently, these are the gloves that
yeah.
he's wearing in that clip. Hike Man Tactical Army Military Gloves, rubber hard knuckle outdoor full finger touchscreen gloves for men fit for cycling, motorcycle hunting, shooting, hiking, camping, airsoft, paintball. It's like a porno title. Just hitting all the search terms in there. But yes, it's like got hard plastic knuckle covering so you can really just whoop a tree's ass if you want to. Also, I know I said Madison Hawthorne. It's Madison Cawthorne. That's my fault.
Yeah.
I misspoke. But anyway,
that's one of those tactical gear things that, like, I mean, obviously there are circumstances where you'd want tactical gloves with like brass knuckles attached in case you're going into some hardcore door-to-door city combat. Like you're a Navy SEAL and Mosul or something. But they sell these to like but they sell these to like guys who have fantasies and act like these are useful for riding a motorcycle. There's no reason you need brass knuckles to ride a fucking motorcycle.
Right. It's that Mall Ninja Tactical thing that they have. There's a whole industry for that. Yeah, I mean, they've even got like shurikens and ninja weapons and stuff that they sell to these people. That yes, they'll never ever use in their. Yeah, producer Matt says gravy seals. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just makes them feel badass, apparently. But like, okay. And I mean, I should know the answer to this question, and I don't. There's like him whooping that tree's ass. He posted that, right? Like he said, "Hey, film me whooping this tree's ass, and then let's post it to social media." This man is a congressman. Like, I mean, I know there's, when you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and that ilk in Congress, it's not particularly egregious to whoop a tree's ass. I'm aware of that. But it's like, what? Like, there's just no standard. And also, just so everybody remembers, he's also a literal white supremacist Nazi as well as a tree ass whooper. Just so we put that out there.
Trey was not just talking about him being a right-wing goon. He literally said his dream vacation was going to like Hitler's vacation house, and he like has done a Heil Hitler salute and shit, and like done stuff like used the number 88 in his screen name, which of course is internet slang for Heil Hitler because it's the eighth letter of the alphabet and shit. So yeah, he sucks. But he's a congressman, but he's also 25. And filming yourself punching a tree down is something like a school shooter would do in the lead up to it, which kind of fits his personality.
So speaking about the current standard for GOP congressmen, let's move on to Dr. Paul Gosar, a Arizona Republican U.S. representative and a doctor who posted the following meme on his Twitter. Just put yes, there you go. So it's if you're only listening to us, it's a cartoon image, like a comic strip type colored in cartoon image of a
it's a prostitute.
Woman of the night, a prostitute, yes, leaning over the driver's side of a car, and it's got her speech says $50, whatever you want, baby, and the John in the car says, "Can you tell everyone America first is inevitable?" So this is like a U.S. congressman / doctor using a prostitute meme to propagate a white supremacist message. So, Madison Cawthorn whooping a tree's ass really doesn't seem all that bad in comparison, I guess.
Yeah, so a little bit of background on that. That's not just a random assortment of words that don't really mean anything. America First is inevitable as a slogan slash pioneered by Nick Fuentes, a former Daily Dumbass nominee, who is leader of an internet.
Proud Boys, right?
No, he's not the Groypers. They're a separate group. I mean, there's so many of these dumb little groups. Not the Proud Boys, but they're worse than the Proud Boys because they're out and out racist. Or the Proud Boys at least try to hide it a little bit. Anyway, so he pioneered that slogan, and he also hosted an event that was down the street from CPAC because CPAC wasn't hardcore enough, which Paul Gosar spoke at. And Paul Gosar, if you don't know who he is, he's the guy whose own family cut a series of attack ads against him because he sucks so goddamn hard. He's really bad. He's a dentist, I think. Dentist, mine's pretty cool, but as a general rule, they have a high suicide rate for a reason. They're miserable bastards, and he's one of them.
We didn't talk about this in the pre-show discussion. I didn't know Mark was going to go in on dentist in here. I mean, I'm all for it. It's hilarious.
They do have a high suicide rate. I'm just saying that's a fact.
You're like, listen, guys, generally speaking, dentist, no.
If you know
it's a
what
white trash redneck thing, I think,
okay.
being distrustful of dentists, we just, it's sort of, it's a cultural thing. That's what it is. But no, obviously this guy's a fucking lunatic.
Yeah. I mean, if any dentists are listening to make it, Trey's right. Our people are naturally suspicious of dentists because we don't have any teeth. So that's what we're going with.
Yeah. Weird how that works. No way there's a relation between those two things. But, all right. Next up on the honorable mentions list, we've got, anybody out there who doubted that Joe Biden wouldn't just choke his dog to death or whatever, I guess. I don't know. His dog Major has been the subject of great scrutiny, as we have covered on recent episodes of the Skews. But
so to set this up,
go ahead.
So Joe Biden's dogs got banished from the White House and shipped back to Delaware because they bit someone, supposedly a Secret Service agent, but no one said. Anyway, so Joe Biden's dogs bit somebody. They had to go home. And so this is the press conference today about it.
About three things, if that's okay. The dogs, immigration, and then Governor
Another dogs question, okay?
Well, just a quick clarification on the dogs.
Okay.
Stupid
Can
country.
you confirm that it was a Secret Service member who was bitten? And can you also reassure the public that Major Biden will not be euthanized as a result of this?
Certainly Major Biden is a member of the family, so I can assure you that. I don't have any more details on the individual. I would encourage you to ask the Secret Service, but I'm not going to have any more
Can you reassure the American people that Joe Biden will not murder this dog? Also, producer Matt, for the record, we heard the audio, but couldn't see the video there, but you only needed the audio. But I love he's like, okay, I got a couple questions. We're going to cover dogs, immigration. It's like, that's one. First up, dogs, then America's immigration policy.
Dude, look, I love dogs. I have a dog. I love it. But like this country's priorities, like if the Biden's dog got hit by a car the same day we nuked Iran, guess what the first question would be about?
Yep. The dog.
Yep.
Now, look, as we've said on the show before, I'm more of a cat person. I want no harm to come to dogs. Dogs are great. I'm a cat person. Okay. See, I'm saying this. I'm walking on eggshells right now because of how fucking hardcore dog people are. I know y'all are going to crucify me just for saying like, yeah, I'm more of a cat guy. Right. But I am. Okay. But having said that, yes, you're right. It's like the thing with Lady Gaga recently, right? Where her, when her dog walker, her dogs got kidnapped and her dog walker got shot. A human being got shot, and all of the headlines were about the dogs who got kidnapped, So yeah, it's seems a little out of whack. We should move on because I know I'm going to fucking bury myself in this conversation.
Trey's real sensitive. Trey feels like Papa John talking about Colonel Sanders when he talks about dogs. It's about to get canceled.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't. So, producer Matt, we ain't got any of the Pepe Le Pew stuff because we can just talk about it. Pepe Le Pew's now been canceled too. Everybody, Dr. Seuss, Mr. Potato Head, and now Pepe Le Pew has been canceled. Although I would argue that Pepe Le Pew, has some cancelable offenses, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
if y'all don't know that we're talking about, there's a new Space Jam movie coming out.
Yeah.
And they
Matt says he's got the clip if you want to play it.
okay.
So,
All right. If it's the yeah. Anyway, if you got the Bartiromo clip, play it if you have
both
it.
of them are Bartiromo, but yeah.
The second one is the one I mean, if you have it, Matt.
Okay. No sound, but here we go.
Following a busy week in censorship, a number of Dr. Seuss books being discontinued from publication. Warner Brothers scrapped an appearance of Pepe Le Pew from the upcoming Space Jam 2 movie. Following a busy week in censorship, a number of Dr. Seuss books being discontinued from publication. Warner Brothers scrapped an appearance.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so all that happened was like a year and a half ago. Warner Brothers. If you guys know how long animation takes, Space Jam has been written probably 5 years ago and drawn 3 years ago, and so they decided not to put Pepe Le Pew in because people have been doing. I mean, Chris Rock had a bit about Pepe Le Pew being a racist and a rapist. In like
I actually think it was. I think it was Dave Chappelle, but yes, it was like 20 years ago, almost literally. It's the early 2000s. He had a whole bit about Pepe Le Pew being rapey 20 years ago. So yeah. Not that controversial or out of left field.
Also, it's a fourth-tier Looney Tunes character. It's not like they got rid of
right, dude. No one gives a fuck about Pepe Le Pew. Are you kidding me? No one's missing Pepe Le Pew's inclusion from Space Jam or whatever. And also, there was another Bartiromo clip which we're not gonna play, but she has this commentator on who clearly she expects to agree with her, and she's like, "Pepe Le Pew's been canceled. What do you think?" And the guy's like, "Well, I mean, if you watch that clip you just played, he seems pretty rapey, doesn't he? Like, do you see how he's treating that cat? That cat is clearly trying to get away from him by force, and he won't let it happen. So, maybe this one's okay," the Republican commentator said on Fox News. So
Warner Brothers has LeBron James attached to a children's movie that's going to make $1.5 billion. They do not want a single think piece about why Pepe Le Pew's in it. They just don't want it. So they cut it like it's not even important. Who cares? There was also people were mad because they decided to redraw Lola Bunny to not, have so much.
Be so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which her drawing Lola Bunny super hot was weird in the 90s. It was
yes, of course it was. Of course it was, dude. They used to do all kinds of that shit. Like in the Lion King movie, Nala, man, she makes some real bedroom eyes at a few points in that movie. It's like they sexualized animals. And
children,
like you said, that was weird. That was weird then, so addressing that now seems totally fine. But yeah.
Can we just be less weird without having it be a talk show topic?
Right.
It's like, it was probably like somebody was super high on coke when they drew Lola Bunny in 1993, and probably shouldn't have done it that way. Anyway, so let's do something a little different.
Okay, all right. So we're, I'm having a great time, but we need to move ahead a little bit here, producer Matt. I think let's do a bit of a dumbass deep dive here. Y'all know him, you love him, the Q Shaman. Been in the news, like everybody knows who I'm talking about. The guy that stormed there he is, there at the bottom of the screen. There he is with his buffalo horns and his raccoon hat and whatever else he had. That dude has been in the news recently because he was interviewed on 60 Minutes Plus, the new Paramount Plus streaming platform news magazine show based on 60 Minutes, in which he had a bunch of wild shit to say, I guess. Matt, if you've got that first clip we pulled with the excerpt from him. Although, Mark, do you want to add anything to the setup to it?
No, this is just all really funny because it's a 3-part story and it ends really funny. So just enjoy the clip to start with. All right.
Okay. Yep.
So if you guys don't know, sometimes the system we use gets overloaded. We have too many viewers, and Matt's computer can't keep up, so it slows us down sometimes. Anyway, so what does describe to you what happened? So this guy, he does a 60 Minutes interview where he says basically that he doesn't understand exactly what he did wrong. He's still a patriot who loves his country. And he was escorted in by the police. So none of it's his fault. And then he goes on to say that he loves Donald Trump because he saw Donald Trump getting picked on by the media, and it made him really identify just like how he was picked on in school and picked on at home. And so it's this huge victim narrative that'll be really familiar to you if you paid any attention to the American right wing anytime soon. And so okay, so you want to try playing?
Go ahead.
You want to skip? I just told you what happened in the Q Shaman bit. Do you have the? Do we have the mom bit clip, Matt?
I think he's got
We'll use
the shaman one.
Yeah,
whichever one
so
you got, Matt. You can play if you think it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so said 10 seconds, so we got like roughly 5 left. I want to read an excerpt from the article about the judge refusing to release him that covers the day that he got arrested, because it's so hilariously indicative of these people, the people that we've spent a lot of time talking about, like how hopelessly oblivious these people are to what even happened to them, to what they did. And so here's an example of that. This is so
he's got
here's
the
a
mom
paragraph
clip
from the BuzzFeed News article about this subject, about the Q Shaman getting his bail request denied by the judge or whatever. This is a little bit of background for you. The guy's name is Jacob Chansley, right? So anyway, here we go. Chansley had called the FBI the day after the Capitol assault and not only confessed to participating in the insurrection, but also said he had plans to come back to Washington to protest President Joe Biden's inauguration, according to his charging papers. He was arrested on January 9th after driving to an FBI field office in Phoenix to speak with investigators, apparently unaware that charges had been filed against him under seal. The headdress he was photographed wearing inside the Capitol was in his car, along with face paint, a 6-foot spear, and a bullhorn. He's been in custody since then. So just like I said, the glorious obliviousness to what they had even done is the most consistent trait across all the different cases of these people. Like, he literally called the FBI himself. He drove to the FBI with all his treason shit in his car and went in there like, yeah, what's the deal? We're going to fix things here or whatever. And then they, and he's been in jail ever since.
Yeah.
Had no idea.
My understanding is that the federal bail system's easier to navigate and more lenient than a lot of like state and county bail systems. And so he probably could have gotten out of jail if he'd been a little more contrite. But play the mom clip if you got it, Matt. You can see what the problem here.
See anything wrong with what your son did?
What do you mean by wrong? What, like, wrong? He didn't. He went through open doors. He was escorted into the Senate.
Escorted.
So I don't know what's wrong with that.
This was an attack on the U.S. Capitol, and your son was a part of it, whether or not you say he was violent. Do you see the gravity of it?
Of course. Of course. I feel the gravity of it because my son is in, he's where he is right now.
I feel bad because
so
he's getting
if
consequences.
he could take it back, he
Exactly.
would.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
You kill
That's
that.
the
I know
whole
that
time
he's
is like,
sorry.
of course I see the gravity of it, because he's
again, it all
she's like, oh, there were
comes
bad
back
parts, but he
to
wasn't part of those parts.
he
Matt, if it's
walked
possible,
through
can you
open
skip
doors.
to the end?
Did it
where
look like the doors were just peacefully open to the public?
after defending him
Peacefully
so
is
much,
why the word peacefully? I
Why
mean,
the
the
word
doors were
peacefully?
open. They were letting people in.
They were overcome
Okay.
by a group of people, many of whom were armed.
Jacob wasn't a part of that.
See,
I hear
Jacob
you
wasn't a
saying,
part
well,
of that.
my son was there, but he wasn't a part of the bad part of it.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think that's really important to understand that.
But wasn't all of that
He's literally
bad? Wasn't
the
any attack on
poster
the
boy
Capitol, any
for what
interruption of our
happened.
democratic process, isn't all of that bad?
No, I don't think the process of being able to go exercise your right
Also, this lady
to-
has a like
to
leopard
free
print
speech
flared
and to
blue
stand up for
jean
what you
jacket
believe
with
is right.
an American
But it is
flag
not your right
ascot wrapped
to
around
interrupt
her
the
neck. That's the
democratic
best way I can describe
process. It is not
if you're
your
just
right
listening.
to breach the Capitol, to go where you are not legally allowed to be.
You know what I would say to that is, I don't think it's right that it was won fraudulently. I don't believe it was won fairly at all. Absolutely not.
So
Both Jacob
okay, my thing with that last part is like the way she says that seems to me like you can tell that she knows it's bullshit what she's saying. Like it's like she's like prepping herself to say some bullshit. You know what I mean? She's saying it under her breath, like, I know this isn't popular to say, but fraudulently. But at the same time, I think that they believe all this stuff. Like it's such a weird dichotomy to me.
I took that to mean she was whispering something she knew to be true, but she knew she'd get backlash.
But
for
she
it.
couldn't say it. Yeah, you're right. No,
Yeah.
no, you're right. You're right. No, I agree.
But and to be fair about talking about being peaceful and unarmed, like in the charging documents, the cops are saying that the flag he was carrying had a pointed tip, which might be cops being cops, but it's
Right.
he definitely could
Because did he pick that up in there?
I think
Did he just
carried
grab a random flag, or did he bring that one in there?
He brought it. He was carrying it outside the
brought it
Capitol before
Okay.
he went in. But also the funny part about this is like all this came up because he filed he's trying to get bail, and his argument in his bail document, one, he was asking to be released into his mom's custody, which is the problem with that there, because his mom doesn't think he did anything wrong, right? She wouldn't show contrition. Two, he was saying that he needed to be let loose because of COVID restrictions. He was having difficulty talking to his lawyer over teleconferencing. Now, what's the problem with that when you just did fucking 60 minutes over teleconferencing?
Over teleconferencing, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, the judge said that it was such an unsound defense as to be insulting to the court because of that. Like, I can't properly meet with my lawyer via teleconferencing and then doing 60 minutes from jail over teleconferencing at the same time.
Do you want to know what really doesn't hit for judges is openly bullshitting to their face. Like
Right.
they deal with murderers all the time. If you're an honest murderer, you can get bail.
Yeah.
what you can't do is fucking tap dance around the truth when they can see it right in front of their face. You can't be like, I don't know how to work teleconferencing when he just saw you on 60 Minutes doing a teleconferencing interview. You can't fucking do that. So
yeah,
you're fucked, buddy. And your lawyer is gonna probably drop you as a client because that was really bad.
All right, Mark, let's move into the COVID relief package, if you will, and why don't you take us into this, please?
All right, so let's do the bad stuff first, because I'm me. They fucking chickened out on the $15 minimum wage, which bails on a campaign promise Joe had. Although maybe they can go back to it later. It won't get to 15, but maybe they can talk Republicans into coming up to like 10 or 11 or some shit. They means tested the $1,400 checks, which I'm not one of those people who's mad. It's not gonna be $2,000. I understood the whole time it's gonna be $1,400 to come up to add to the 600. That's also what Trump wanted, by the way, that McConnell wouldn't give him. The means testing thing was so fucking stupid because it caused a big argument over nothing. It didn't even save much money because the checks were still going to like 90-some% of people. It wasn't enough money to add back in the bill to do anything else. Like they're like, we'll save the money, we'll use it for something else, but it couldn't beat the reconciliation test to like do anything else with that money. So it didn't save anything. It's just going to piss off a bunch of people who are going to be accurate that they got less money from Biden than Trump gave them, because Trump gave them $2,000 checks. And then when they voted down the $15 minimum wage, I'm sure you guys have seen this video. Kristen Sinema, senator from Arizona, who dresses like she mugged 3 different fun aunts, did this.
Miss Cinema.
What?
Oh, that was sassy. That was real sassy.
What is that?
She did kind of if you're listening to the podcast, she did kind of a half a thought. She walked up when she tapped Mitch McConnell on the shoulder to make sure he was watching, which is really fun. And then she walks up and does like half a little curtsy with a thumbs down, and then turns and walks off with her Lululemon bag to go party somewhere, I guess. By the way, Kristen Sinema was on the record being for $15 minimum wage, so I don't even know what the fuck she's doing.
What is what? Right. I mean, literally, what is that? What is she trying to do with that? Like this cutesy little, like she's dunking on the idea of a minimum wage increase move, and this is a Democratic congresswoman from Arizona. Why?
And her seats, I mean, like she's not. Arizona's a purple state now, and it's pretty. I mean, Biden won it. The other senator won it Democratic. They have it. I mean, it's fairly blue state now. And by the way, a $15 minimum wage polls way more popularly than she is in Arizona. So I don't know what she's up to or what she's doing. So that's the bad part of it. The good part.
So real quick, the means testing thing, though, before you move on to the good part, like. One of the things that's always driven me the most crazy about any efforts to try to increase the minimum wage or, help out poor people or whatever is this obsession that a lot of Americans have with like not giving money to the wrong people, to the freeloaders or the people that abuse the system or whatever. It's like, well, you can't give people money because it'll go to these pieces of shit who are lazy and they'll fucking do bullshit with it or whatever. And it's always killed me because like no one, I don't care how many people you poll, no one feels that way about themselves. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, well, I could use that money.
Yeah.
But them sorry motherfuckers, they don't need it. And it's like, I don't understand that on any level because to me, it's like, it's wild because it's almost like you're saying, I'd rather no one get anything than for some asshole who doesn't deserve it to get free money from the government, including myself. I'd rather I myself not get anything than some asshole to get some money he doesn't deserve. And I don't understand that. Like, why do you care? Why is this such a, an obstacle for so many people that they get so hung up on? It's always been so weird to me.
Government out of spite, man. We were talking about as the phenomenon where like people, they drug test people for unemployment, right? Which is more expensive than just giving them unemployment. Like drug testing itself is super expensive and it causes like a extra regulatory hurdles where it's like, and also like, what does the fact somebody smoked weed 26 days ago have to do with the fact they're unemployed today?
Right.
Like, the two things aren't connected. But this is like means testing is sort of the opposite way where it doesn't give it to the well-off people. So it's only the pieces of shit getting this money, kind of. Although they worked really hard to not give it to they made it really clear that undocumented immigrants can't get it, but of course they can't because they don't like.
Yeah, well, that's the most thing. Right. I know that undocumented immigrants was like a big part of the argument or whatever, but it's always, it's this like human nature thing to make sure that only the right people get, the benefits of stuff or whatever. But it's hard to define what that even means.
If you want to have a social program, the ones that survive are universal, right? Social Security, Medicaid, roads. Like rich people and poor people drive on the same fucking roads. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. Like they all get access to the highway. We all get access to public schools. If you want to send your kid to a private school, you can, but you don't. If you want to send your kid to a public school, it's available to you. Used to be that way with public colleges. It used to be like it's like this idea that we have to like select who gets specific benefits is not only cheap and more. When you make it more expensive to administer, it makes the program more expensive than just sending it to everybody. Like imagine how expensive it would be to establish like a guarded toll booth at the freeway to make sure only people could get on and pay the right amount of taxes. Right. It would be more expensive.
Our government is already overly bureaucratic and inefficient anyway. So adding in all these extra steps to make sure that some arbitrary designation is met before any kind of benefits are received or whatever is not ever going to make any program work better, in my opinion.
No.
The
more forms,
shit, though.
Just to tag that before we move on, the more forms you have to fill out, the less people can figure out how to access the program and the more pointless the program is. So that's basically the short of it. And they make it more complicated on purpose so poor people can't figure it out. That's how unemployment works. So the good of the bill, all right. First of all, $1.9 trillion is $1.9 trillion. And that was Biden's original ask, and he got pretty much every penny of it. And a lot of that money is going to go to, like, we're talking about the checks, but really expanding unemployment benefits is a much bigger part of the bill and more important, keeping people out of poverty and keeping people in housing. There's stuff for like to help out Indian Native reservations have been hit really hard with COVID. There's stuff to bail out hospitals and schools and get people ready to go back to school, to pay for vaccines, to help out childcare agencies who are going under. There's a lot of shit in here that's going to make a lot of people's lives better. And here's a way to think about it. This is from the LA Times, these numbers. The Republican bill from a couple years ago, most of the benefits, nearly half the benefits were the top 5% of incomes, which is people making more than $308,000. The Democratic bill, by contrast, sends about 70% of its benefits to those earning $91,000 or less, which is the bottom 3/5 of the nation's income distribution. Those in the lower fifth, people that make less than $25,000, it would increase their take-home income by 20%. This bill is going to make a lot of people's lives a lot better.
Yeah, man. When you make less than $25,000 a year, a take-home income increase of 20%,
$5,000
is massive. Yeah, and $5,000 is huge. That's an insane amount of money for people in that tax bracket. You know, I know because that's most of my family and how I grew up.
The average. I mean, like my first job out of college, I think my salary was $24,000 a year. If you gave me an extra $5,000, that would have fucking made my whole year a ton better. So that's great. I think I saw one number. The average family of 4 is going to have an extra $7,400 in their pocket this year. That's shoes and food, and also keeps the economy out of a crater, so we can all go back to our lives sooner. So if you have a small business or whatever, people are spending money in it. People are going out to eat. People are, like the nightmare scenarios. People say if somebody is solid middle class living, and give them a $1,400 check, they're just going to buy a new TV. You know how that helps? Everybody works at Best Buy. It's good. So, and one thing, not to get too bogged down into like economic theory, but one thing that's happened in the last few years is people that realize that our understanding of like how inflation works in economics is kind of bullshit. There's no real like cohesive theory for what the alternative is. But for like past 40 years, we've been operating under the illusion that deficit spending and national debt would lead to inflation that would make everybody go broke and turn our currency into Zimbabwe's. Well, while trying to break even and stick to a budget, we have built a $10 trillion budget, national debt, and nothing's fucking happened bad. Or in fact, inflation's near zero. So it turns out we can't just print money and hand it out, it seems like, which we always do for wars. So it seems like the government's been like, let's try it this way for a while. Let's try making people's lives better without worrying about a fake national debt and just try it. Let's see what happens. So I'm in favor of that at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also a measure in it to give more money to people with children to address child poverty. So obviously that's huge as well. The proposal, which could provide nearly all American families with monthly checks of up to $300 per child, would cut child poverty in half, lifting nearly 10 million children up to or above the poverty line. So, now, like we talked about a lot on the show about the Democrats getting in power and what they needed to do, and the idea that like past Democratic policies that, help people if they work the way they're supposed to. And as long as you do that, you'll be okay. But Mark, not everybody's in favor of this. This bill didn't get a single Republican vote. But to be fair to them, they were kind of busy. This week. This is what the Republican leadership was doing in the interim.
Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. I am Sam.
This fucking shit.
I am Sam. Listen. Sam, I am.
All right, you cut that off. He literally just reads Green Eggs and Ham, so we don't have to sit here and watch it or listen to it. But it was accompanied by a tweet that said, "I like Dr. Seuss still, and I don't want Dr. Seuss to get canceled. If you agree, then retweet this." And it's literally just Kevin McCarthy reading Green Eggs and Ham, as opposed to working on the stimulus package for, all these.
I have a compromise.
People.
I have a compromise proposal for you, Trey. What if every single mom with 2 kids is about to be homeless promises to spend part of her $1,400 check on a couple of Dr. Seuss books? How about that? Will that fucking make him happy? Because like this is like I mean, go out to go complain too much about. Bernie said that this was the one of the best bills that's passed in his like 87 years in the Senate or whatever, and I take his word for it. And it seems like it is going to help a lot of people. But going back to the Democratic brain thing and not getting any Republican votes, man, they negotiated down with I forget what Republican dipshit that Joe Manchin took his like suggested amendment, and then no Republicans still voted for the fucking bill. So negotiated the Republican position, and in exchange got 0 votes. So
for
it
nothing,
didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So right, like it's we've been saying for forever. Like, don't waste your time trying to work with them. You know, and like, why? You're not going to get anything out of it. You compromise and then still don't get any support whatsoever, and that's just the way it's going to be. So who gives a shit what they think or what their positions are? Just move ahead without them and make people's lives better and see what happens.
And so the state of the bill is the Senate passed their version after the House had passed theirs. So now this House has to repass the version the Senate passed, yada, yada, yada. It's good. It's pretty much locked in to be what it is. But the Republicans can slow it down by doing a bunch of like amendment bullshit. Like they can just drag their feet and make it and make it take longer, which is what they're doing. So today, Tim Ryan went on the floor, a Democratic congressman from Ohio. He went on the floor and had this rant, which is pretty fucking cool.
Heaven forbid we pass something that's going to help the damn workers in the United States of America. Heaven forbid we tilt the balance that has been going in the wrong direction for 50 years. We talk about pensions, you complain. We talk about the minimum wage increase, you complain. We talk about giving them the right to organize, you complain. But if we were passing a tax cut here, you'd be all getting in line to vote yes for it. Now stop talking about Dr. Seuss and start working with us on behalf of the American workers. I yield back the balance.
Yeah, dude. I wasn't familiar with Tim Ryan before the Democratic debates early in the election process, and the main thing I remember about him, I remember him kind of shooting himself in the foot a couple of times. But the main thing I remember about him was he was the only one I felt who spent any real time sort of standing up for, you know, working people or the working man or blue collar people or whatever. So like, you know, he's been pounding this drum for a while, I think. I'm not from Ohio. I don't know all the rest of his stances or whatever, but I do, you know, he put some actual effort towards trying to take care of working class Americans. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. He's sort of like, in that Joe Biden lane where it's like centrist, but also super pro-union. He's from Youngstown. His parents worked in like factories and shit. And he talks about that all the time. He also, he doesn't appear to have any like huge skeletons. He has like a wife he actually lives with, like most Congress.
Well, that's good.
But he also, he writes self-help books in his spare time. He's written 2, The Real Food Revolution, Healthy Eating, Green Groceries, and the Return of the American Family Farm. And he wrote one on mindfulness called A Mindful Nation, how a simple practice can help us reduce stress, improve performance, and recapture the American spirit. So so if he runs for president again, I'll think about voting for him just based on that. He also challenged Pelosi for minority leader in 2016, correctly surmising that she's out of date and sucks. So, yeah, I like Tim Ryan, I think.
Yeah, I think I do too. All right, so we need to move on. Let's talk about the filibusters, you know, as much as we can. Obviously, with we're talking about, you know, if the Democrats are in power, they just got to pass their shit and get it through there. But obviously, the way it works in American politics, the minority party has the power of the filibuster, which I feel like could be kind of understandable if it wasn't so perverted to the point of like they can just sort of declare I'm filibustering this, and that's all it takes, as opposed to having to actually show up and do the thing. It's like Michael Scott in that one episode of The Office where he like declares bankruptcy or whatever. They can just declare filibustering, but that works though in our current system, which is just so patently bullshit.
It doesn't even have to be a senator. what they do, the office of the leader, the various party leaders will call around to their members and ask if they plan to filibuster, and a single staffer, maybe an intern, who answers the phone, you'd be like, yeah, we're going to filibuster, and that's the bill's dead. Because you assume if one member of a party is going to do it, then you probably got another, you can pull together another 39. So it's a really stupid fucking system that's very anti-democrat, anti-small d democratic. It's extremely dumb, and it's really imbalanced too, because the Democrats are the ones that want to pass bills. Like Trump had unified control of the government for 2 years and passed one law, essentially the tax cut. That's all they wanted to do was cut taxes, and
right.
they tried to kill Obamacare, but didn't really have consensus for that, so they fucking quit on that. So it's really biased in favor of the people who don't want to do anything, which is a one-sided street here. And so this debate's happening in the context of HB 1, which is the new Voting Rights Act, the John Lewis Act, John Lewis Memorial Act, RIP. And the context is a bunch of Republican states are passing laws to make it very, very hard to vote as a backlash to Trump losing.
Right.
Yeah. Georgia Republicans are being especially egregious. They might as well call it the Jim Crow Act, what they're trying to do. And so this interview with Joe Manchin happened today, and it was pretty interesting. If you have Manchin ready, Matt, go ahead.
The Senate was designed for the minority's input.
Is there nuance in your statement? Is there nuance in that answer?
There are so many different ways you can look at that. You can look at it as, what's the pain? You had Jimmy Stewart, when Mr. Smith comes to Washington. This talking filibusters, you had that. You had other things to where people had to be present when they basically announced that they were going to filibuster. And it had to be the pain of being there, not just saying it from your office and calling down saying, I'm against that, and let the good times roll because you don't have to be present. So many things that we can do, but you have to give the minority the ability to object or involve themselves.
But still 60 votes. You're not taking it down to a different bar.
No. I have not and will not on that. No, 60 vote. But there's different ways to get to that 60 vote, and people have to make sure that they're willing to show them. And it'd be great, don't you think, if someone was down there telling you why they're objecting?
Yeah.
If I was in the minority, I'm telling you, I'm objecting to something that the majority wants.
That's such a seemingly common sense stance on that subject of, wouldn't it be great if the person who objected to this had to stand there in front of you and explain to you why they object to it? Like, it's insane that it doesn't automatically work that way, that we have to argue in favor of making it work that way. It's crazy that it would ever work any other way, but what are you gonna do?
It is like you should, and if the idea is that the better legislation comes out of debate, then being able to just like say on the phone, I filibuster and offer no reason and be able to stop a bill, again, it could be because your brother-in-law didn't get a cut of whatever it is, then it's a system designed for assholes to prosper, right? But you should at least have to stand, like Rand Paul did a good filibuster about Obama's drone policy a couple of years ago when he stood on the floor and he fucking made his case for like 10 hours or whatever. That was actually the one good thing Rand Paul ever did, to my knowledge, other than establish his own ophthalmology board to certify himself. That's pretty fucking cool. And to translate what Joe Manchin's saying there, the 60 vote threshold, you can ignore that because you don't actually need 60 votes to pass a bill. You need 60 votes to bring it to the floor. You can still pass with 50. So in politician talk, what he's saying is open and changing the filibuster rules to make it much harder to filibuster and easier to pass legislation. So that's good. He's coming up with a framework where he can say he's still kept the filibuster, but also make it easier for Joe Biden to pass his agenda. So
yeah,
that's good.
Yes. So, Matt, questions and comments, whatever y'all got out there. While Matt's looking for some of those, Mark, I wanted to ask, because I said something about it up top. We haven't talked about it. How do you feel about the British royal family, Mark? Do you care at all? Oprah's big blockbuster interview. Where are you standing on all that?
Well, I've actually the last like half decade or so, I'm kind of in favor of an American symbolic monarchy, so a president can actually do governing shit and somebody else can do the ribbon cuttings and handshaking, all the stuff that Trump liked doing, like the state dinners and greeting the college football teams. Let Trump do that. That's all he wants to do. If he wants to do that, fuck it. Who cares? Yeah. But as far as the specific British royal family, the ones who all their in-laws were literally married to higher ups in the Adolf Hitler's regime, not a fan. Not a fan. They suck.
Yeah.
And I cannot give a fuck about them. I don't care. Don't understand why anyone else cares, especially Americans. But
Yeah.
Meghan
So
Markle killed
Kim
Piers
Shade
Morgan.
22 says, "Oh my God, do we have to talk about this?" And I mean, I hear you, Kim. And you know what? On that note, we can just move on. But it's like I'm completely. It's funny. I agree with you, Kim, and I agree with Mark. It's like, why do we in America give a fuck about this? But I also recognize that spending time talking about it on this show is, kind of hypocritical to that stance. So, I get it. But I feel like taking a moment just to say, yeah, fuck them, who gives a shit, is not the same thing as being fully enamored with it or getting obsessed about it. Nicole Johnson says, I have a cat named Pepe Le Pew. Do I need to change his name now?
Nah, you're good.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Although he would like Pepe Le Pew's a skunk, right? The cat was the object of his affections. So if you're doing some little kind of role reversal thing there, it's a cutesy name, I guess.
I'm assuming the cat has the stripes on the back. That's probably why I got the name.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a good name for a cat, and your cat's probably fixed, so it's not sexually assaulting anybody. Good job.
Yeah. Who knows? Who's to say? Animals can be a little sexually assaulty.
Do you think the people? I kind of think the people should be most offended by Pepe Le Pew were the French.
French, of course, dude. Absolutely. But we ain't never gave a shit what the French think about anything. Which, by the way, I think is fine. That's fine. They don't give a shit what we think either. It's a symbiotic relationship we have in that way. So I think it's okay. But yes,
we gang up. We get together every couple decades to get in a war together and either kick some German ass or lose to the Vietnamese together. So whichever way it goes.
Yeah. Plarn dude says, normally I don't care what royalty's up to, but all that racist bullshit needs a word or three. My thing with that is and I don't mean this in any kind of dismissive way, but it's kind of like that Bill Burr bit he had about about Donald Sterling, whatever. He's like, what did you think they thought? She's been the queen for so long that when she became the queen, she had African colonies. She's like a colonial. Do you know what I mean? From half a century plus ago. And I know it's not literally the queen that they're saying who said that shit. But I'm just saying, yeah, and like Mark said, they have Nazi ties and whatnot. It's not at all surprising to me that they were concerned about. I mean, they didn't like the fact that Meghan Markle was American. You know what I mean? Let alone a person of color. Nothing is less surprising to me than hearing that they were concerned about the degree of ethnicity that this new progeny would have. I
mean, Queen Elizabeth was homies with Winston Churchill, who literally did genocides. So I don't know what we're talking about. But I mean, as far the British media is wild to me. I don't really understand the contours of British racism, but every time I see a clip of them talking about this shit, it's like, holy shit. It's right. I saw one last week where a dude was saying that to me, Meghan Markle isn't black. I don't think of her as black. And you give all these explanations for why she's not black, and every single reason was racist as shit. He was comparing her to a hypothetical black woman who she doesn't look like because she's better looking than, and it was
right.
What the fuck, man?
Right. Stephanie Wosley said, wow, colonizers might be racist. Shocker. And yeah, right. I agree with you, Stephanie. That's how I feel about it too. It's not surprising. But again, that don't make it okay. And it's still wild to hear it just put out there like that, for sure. But yeah, it's not surprising.
You ever been to
producer Matt has just reminded me actually, and I did want to say this. For anybody listening, that mostly does the audio or whatever, or if you do both or whatnot, I want to make to remind everybody that we're on Weekly Skews now. We've got the Weekly Skews Facebook page and all that. We're still broadcasting from my regular pages, and we're going to continue doing that. But the audio version of it, I've been putting it on the Well-Read podcast feed, and rather than continue to spam up the Well-Read podcast feed with Skews episodes, we're going to put all the audio, the podcast versions of the show on the Weekly Skews Spotify and Apple Podcast feeds in the future. So just get on there and look up Weekly Skews, and then it will be just that, and you won't have to deal with that. And me and Corey and Drew doing our bullshit all at once. So we are moving that over there. So yes, Matt, thank you for reminding me of that, because yes, that's a change we're making. So check that out. Anyway, sorry, were you about to say something, Mark?
I was going to ask if you've ever been to Hawaii.
Yeah, I have. We did some shows in Hawaii, a couple of them. Beautiful, loved it. But what were you going to say about it? The whole colonial part of it?
Yeah, it was like we're supposed to. My mom wants to take a trip there for celebrate her retirement. Congratulations, Mom! In June, vaccine, status of COVID dependent. But wife and I went a couple years ago for the first time, and I wasn't really that aware of Hawaiian history. But if you want to see the land speed record for white peopling, holy shit!
Yeah,
like,
man.
The islands were discovered by white people until 1790 something, I think. And between then and 1940, which is only 150 years, which we know between that and Pearl Harbor, like wiped out 95% of Hawaiians, imported a bunch of slaves. It changed hands 3 or 4 times, a bunch of wars. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, very corporate fruit company bullshit going on, like not just governmental stuff. No, they got fucked over, and it's like still very much, and rightfully so, it's still very much a thing. I mean, I've only been to Hawaii once for a few days, but like I ran into multiple people, multiple Hawaiians, and it came up like every time. The sort of like colonial history there. And again, rightfully so, I don't blame them. But yeah, it's shady and unfortunate and very typical of all of us British Commonwealth adjacent entities over the years. Because that's the thing, we learned it from you, Mom. You know what I mean? Like we're still like we're one of Brit. Like America gets all this flack for being the new empire and being empirical and racist and all that stuff. But hey, like we're just Britain's baby at the end of the day. Like Britain really kicked it all off, in my opinion.
Yeah, they always say they're like, we don't learn their lessons. So we're just behind them a learning curve. It's like, like stuff like no land wars in Asia, like shit like that. Fucking doing it.
Right. Oh, all right. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. We'll be back next week, March 16th. Yeah, next Tuesday, March 16th. And we'll see what's happened between now and then. This is Weekly Skews.